Greetings to all y'all in the name of Jesus Christ, Rastafari. Even in his new name, Kedamah Haile Selassie the First. Greetings to all the Christian brethren and sistren. I don't have many subs yet because I've been off here for a while. But I got some Rastas subbing to me already. That's great. That means I'm not being utterly blocked from being viewed whatsoever. So for the Rastas or Rasta or whoever has subbed, I've been on here for 5 years if you don't know. And I've been censored incessantly for speaking the truth and defending the Rastafari faith. And here we're going to listen to an Alison McDowell video like I talked about before. And I'm going to let her do the talking first. This video is called Managing Consciousness Under Cybernetic Control. It's crucial information. I suggest you go sub to her. And I'm going to put the link in the description to this video. Alright. Here we go.
Up until August of 2020 of the Nada Carmelite Retreat Center. And this center was established in 1982, and I believe it was one of the earliest religious institutions that came here, and it was a retreat and contemplative center for people hosted by this Carmelite nuns, I guess. And so the women, it operated for 37 years, and then during 2020, the women, they'd gotten older and they wanted to move into their retirement, I guess. And so they passed the site along to, you can see the Center for Contemplative Research, Mio Samten Ling Hermitage. And so that happened in August of 2020. Now, this Hermitage is affiliated with a new nonprofit here in Colorado called the Center of Contemplative Research, and it's affiliated with something called the Santa Barbara Institute on Consciousness. And the Santa Barbara Institute on Consciousness was established by an individual. His name is B. Alan Wallace, and he was the child of, I think, sort of conservative Baptist Christians, and he was really interested in the environment, and then eventually went on to study consciousness and meditation, Tibetan Buddhism specifically. And so the focus of the Center for Contemplative Research in Colorado, it is looking at the nature of consciousness from a scientific and non-materialist view. So increasingly, as this fourth industrial revolution rolls out and they're working to push us into their engineered holographic conception of reality, they're very interested in managing how our minds work and how they can engineer our consciousness. And it's from a very scientific standpoint. So they're looking, there have long been investigations into faith by scientists and by people who would like to use the power of very strong spiritual connections, whether that's Catholic, mystic, Tibetan meditation, other elements. They want to get a hold of that. They want to get a hold of that. And when I was over at the New Lane University site, I was talking about the global brain and Julius Stolman and Fritz Kunst and Pitcherem Sorokkin over at Harvard. Now, Fritz Kunst, who was part of this global brain project, he had been the head of Theosophy in North America, but he had got his start working under Annie Besant in Adyar, India. And so there's quite a bit of Western insertion of Western science into the meditative practices of Buddhism in Tibet, in India, of trying to get a lock on what that is. And I believe, much of it is happening through the military and the CIA, and to try to leverage it into new markets. And I believe increasingly technologies connected to biofeedback mechanisms, which up until the point that they all became connected to the cloud and data-driven, certainly have some health benefits for people, but increasingly this concept of mindfulness, focused breathing, reducing your heart rate, they want to equip people with these tools because I believe that they understand that the world that they're building with these digital technologies is so profoundly inhuman that we will need tools to simply exist in the world that they're building, in this digital world that they're building. And they want to connect all of these devices through wearables, whether that's headsets, whether that's neural prosthetics, whether that's smart clothes, whether that's your Fitbit smartwatch, to mirror your biological process and your contemplative process into this digital reality, into the digitally twin universe, so that they can tweak it and engineer it as harmony, as peace. And so that's really this dark element of the Morris Strong interfaith program is, we will enact world peace, not through individuals becoming more enlightened and agreeing to collaborate and heal the world and address systemic injustice and structural racism and environmental pollution, mostly by the military and corporate elements. They want to engineer us through our behaviors and controlling our minds and our thoughts. And that's how they're going to engineer world peace at the peace universities, to create these harmonies. But the harmonies are not harmonies of nature, not harmonies of wind to rock to trees, the harmonies that blow in the wind with the flags, the prayer flags. They will be harmonies that will be like electronic music, right? It will be a different thing. It will be a very different thing, and we will be drawn into it, most people not knowing the bigger picture and not being able to fully give our consent to where this is going. And I think particularly the resonance between the West and the East, that the West is looking to sort of insert itself into Eastern meditative practice, consciousness practice, not for the right ends. Maybe on the surface, some people have the right intention. I'm not saying the average regular person, but once you start it into wearables, into wellness metrics, into mirrored consciousness, into understanding the mind so that you can replicate it in a machine, that's all incredibly dangerous. So anyway, just behind me is the Nada Contemplative Center. So now it's this new consciousness center. B. Alan Wallace, who was with the Santa Barbara Institute on Consciousness, which is sort of the parent affiliate, he studied Tibetan Buddhism actually in the 1970s, and he studied it at the University of Göttingen, which is interesting, in Germany. And that university was set up by George II, the King of England, to establish enlightened thinking in Germany, which is quite an interesting concept. And now that university actually maintains affiliations with the Max Planck Institute and the Leibniz Institute. So he studied Tibetan Buddhism. He initially started out at UC San Diego, which, as we know, is a center for a lot of the nanotech, went on to Göttingen, and then was actually ordained as a monk by the Dalai Lama in Dharamsala in 1975. And so there's this resonance with the Dalai Lama, who is very clearly a prominent figure in public consciousness, very connected in with celebrity, with the World Economic Forum, with Ervin Laszlo, the systems theorist, with his Club of Budapest. He's an honorary member. The idea of, being in exile and representing the people of Tibet, but from a modern worldview, embracing the scientific pursuit, almost to the extent of suppressing some of the original teachings, moving in a modern direction, in a globalist direction, would be very much in line with the harmonized, holographic world that we're moving into. And so, I just want to mention that within the context of the conference itself, because when we were at the Brigham Academy at the Mormon Transhumanist Conference last Saturday, we had one of the presenters was very into meditative practice, and he's a member of the church, so clearly that's not his original cultural practice, but he gave a presentation about religion as an API, religion as an app of something that you could mix and match syncretism, and that you could just have a app. Like you could be atheist, but you could just use a Buddhist meditative app and then collect that data, and that would be fine. And he was very focused on children. And right now, what I saw, even when my child was finishing up school, there was quite a pressure on them to practice mindfulness. And it was one of these companies that is connected to is called I Heart Math. And it's biofeedback and slowing your heart and being focused, all of which on the surface is fine. But once you connect it to the cloud, once you create digital identities, once you create digital twins that you're trying to understand how minds work individually and collectively, and you make impact markets on that, and you're engineering people's consciousness in ways they may not fully comprehend, using children in schools as test beds is really scary. And, my question has always been, why do we want to give children tools to live in a world where there's such stress and pressure that they can't even be children? Why do we not try to address the structural problem and make a world that's kind to children? Like, why should we make worlds that are terrible for children and then equip them with yoga and mindfulness exercises and wearable technology and say, we're going to measure how good you are to fit into this broken society? I mean, that's a sickness. That is a soul sickness. And many of the impact markets are connected to these wearables, connected to consciousness, including Paul Tudor Jones of the Robin Hood Foundation, who was a gentleman I was researching early on. His wife, Sonia Jones, is a wellness yoga practitioner. And Paul Tudor Jones and his wife endowed a whole research center on sort of contemplation, contemplative sciences at the University of Virginia, which is his alma mater. And so all of these things are just emerging. If you just look around, you see it everywhere. Social emotional learning, mindfulness, yoga for children. But again, to what end? I don't have anything against the practice of meditation, the practice of yoga, the cultural context of it. I fully believe that in this moment of facing down artificial intelligence, all of us who have a connection to the sacred, is our responsibility to ground into that authentic cultural practice and try to be as human as possible and to try to have as much integrity as possible. I'm not pitting religions against one another because that's what they want us to do. They want us to be fragmented. We need to be connected to our faith and to that energetic position, but not from some preconceived United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, not rules given to us by some oil mining, water stealing billionaire or the people who would create, nanotechnology medicine to turn us into holographic beings. That's not it. But all of us need to tap into that with the understanding, and I will say this, and this is work that I've been doing, the whole interfaith unity is unfortunately all part of it. So how can you go about wanting peace and love and nature and then realize they've attempted to co-opt all of the language and all of the organizations around it already? But I fully believe that interfaith NGOs that are specifically...
And what has co-opted all this? The Dragon Network. So interfaith is not for Rasta. Yes, we will be pragmatically peaceful with all religions, nations, and tribes and tongues, because that's what Christ has called us to do. But we are not going to bow down to false gods, okay? And then you see this great pressure upon Jamaica, Ethiopia, and all Rastafari in every nation. Like, for example, I'm Welsh American, I'm white. But I've been Rasta to the bone for 15, 16, 17 years, okay? And I see this infiltration happening where they're pushing transcendental meditation, Buddhism, and so on into Rastafari. And it's like, that is not Rastafari. And furthermore, when you go back to the history of India, you realize that India was one of the nations that sent some of the best cannabis to Ethiopia as a tribute, because India has a plethora of cannabis, ganja cultivars, right? And on my cannabis channel, Line of Judah Seed Co., I covered, why Kush is called Kush, and in the northern Himalayan mountain range, the varietal of cannabis that's called Kush, right? But why did India send this tribute to Ethiopia? Because they were Christian. Okay, and then they had the science of the body figured out in India that brings health, and these people are covering up India's real true Christian history and then overlaying this New World Order, New Age, tied to technology, religion right into it, okay? And now they're coming after Rastas for the last 5 years hardcore, and that's why I've been screaming and yelling about it, okay? You got UNICEF, the UN, the CIA, and so on, all trying to, whether it's put actors out who are pretending to be Rasta, like Mutu Baruka or this CryPTORASTA's guy who's pushing NFT, blockchain, and so on, which is not Rasta, because Rastafari has been saying this whole time, according to the teachings of Haile Selassie I and Jesus Christ and the Bible, to not move forward into this high-tech control grid that is being laid on all of mankind through, like what she's saying, wearables, smart technology, smart clothing, nanotech in the environment, and you know, as in to the point to where they're going to be able to look at a specific tree because it's inlaid with nanotechnology and say that this tree is doing this or that, and you know, and so on, so they can manage the earth, right? It's all, you know, an inversion of what's good and wholesome and orderly and part of God's Jah's creation, you know, the Most High Jah. So that's why I'm harping on this stuff, and it's so important because this is being pulled out into our world right now. It's already pulled out, like, and it started with the smartphone and all the smart tech. You know, this is the copy of the Akashic records, basically. Okay, so if you know, so Jah is the head creator, right? And Jehovah, the Most High, the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has created this universe, or this creation, right? And I'm not here to argue about ball earth versus flat earth and all that stuff. I believe what the scripture says about the earth, and that's as simple as we're going to make it on that one. But he created this, and then that's the Akashic field that he set up, right? That monitors the behaviors of each living man and woman, right? To put a record in the book of life, okay? So that when judgment comes, there is a record of your behavior, whether you accepted the truth and loved the truth and did righteous good deeds unto other men and women who have lesser than you, okay? The poor, the fatherless, the widow, the motherless, right? And so on. These devils are trying to make an inverted copy version of what God has set up to keep a record of each man and woman's actions, beliefs, and heart. Okay? Because only God knows the hearts of men, and we got these criminals trying to know our hearts, okay, through technology. And so you see the push for the legalization of psychedelic drugs, hallucinogenic drugs, and then Eastern mysticism at the same time, right? And then connected through this technology. So the push of magic mushrooms, LSD, ecstasy, and so on, okay? And then you tie that to hypnotizing mind control meditations, and that which puts you in what's called a suggestible state, an easy to influence, you know, state, basically, okay? So then, you know, these psychedelic drugs connect you to the cloud, and these meditations will connect you to the cloud because they're using nanotechnology to deliver that data, okay? This is all real. This is not a conspiracy theory. It's right out of the horse's mouths from the World Economic Forum and so on, okay? Which is why on my channels, I call for these Dragon Network institutions arrest, because they're subverting mankind, and they're the ones who have funded all the major wars on both sides. Rockefeller, Rothschild, okay? Their money is in Hitler's situation, but they're also into all this stuff she's talking about, okay? Eugenics is now called philanthropy, and now philanthropy is going to be tied in with all this tech, okay? This is a warning to all Rastafari. You better snap out of it, put your britches on, and stand like a man and like a woman, okay? We do not want to be infiltrated by this. We don't want technology in our bodies. We don't want technology in nature, okay? We don't want robots farming our food, okay? I don't know about you, but I want to be the way God has created the earth to be, not the way man is taking it over, okay?
Billionaire impact investors to create interfaith alliances within certain parameters. That's being done on purpose because they don't want the sort of beautiful chaos of real human beings and connected with their creator.
Bingo, exactly. Like if you want to be Muslim or Buddhist or whatever, that's your right. You can choose to do that. And I and Rastafari are not going to shoot you down. But if you want to have a theological debate, we can do that and discuss those things. But we don't want you to not be able to be that. What this system is saying is that you have to be someone who worships all gods or nothing. You can't be a Rasta or a real Christian who follows the commandments and who doesn't do certain things and to bring in a peculiar to this world type of behavior, because we are called out of the world. We are called a peculiar people, and that's what Haile Selassie has called us to do, is to continue in the faith. Okay, Haile Selassie never said start doing all this stuff. No, he said to stand against the dragon, and the dragon is this worldwide satanic network that is making a one world religion connected to technology and the pretending of this system to be God, so it can monitor every behavior, action, and thing you do. The only being that can monitor all things is the Most High Jah. And we don't want to tolerate this dragon network trying to be Jehovah, okay? Because it cannot be. And it's going to be tyrannous, because if you dissent against it, then they have your data right there. They know where you are. They got your facial recognition data. They got your blood pressure data. They got everything about you, because you got all this technology on you and wearing it and having it inside your body. And then they spray the nanotechnology on everything every single day. That's what chemtrails are really for, besides controlling the weather warfare. You know, they want to be God. So Rastafari is the faith to resist this and to lead, all of real Christians into victory against it, okay? Because the ensign of Haile Selassie is just that. He's the last prophet and warning of our time, okay? And that's why people have come after him in the Rastafari reggae scene. Every reggae musician who is sincerely Rastafari from the 60s forward has been warning you against this system. And, and the hippie movement, which was created by Tavistock, the Esalen Institute, and the CIA, was to be a contrary weapon against Rastafari. And the CIA themselves say Rastafari is the greatest threat to the New World Order, New Age, one world religion, beast system. Okay. So for Rastas to give up now and fold their cards and go along with this shit is a blasphemy, and all the brethren and sistren who have paved the way for truth and righteousness and justice until now through reggae music are spinning in their graves, okay, because of this infiltration against I people, okay. Plurality without partiality, pragmatism, and unity among all religions, tribes, and tongues is good. But I will not worship your God just because I will be pragmatic with you. Okay? Well, the UN and the Vatican, okay, want you to mingle all religions together, completely forget your roots and the real truth of each faith, so that they can mold it all together into their one world religion. Okay? One day, when justice is served and Jesus Christ, Kadamawa Selassie I, is reigning, he's always reigning, but when he whoops the dragon, there will be unity worldwide, okay, under the one true God and true justice and true righteousness and real reality, objective factual reality and objective factual morality. Until that day, we have a big, giant Goliath dragon right in front of us, and we have to speak out against it because it's not good. They try to make it look good and like it's for humanity, but it's not. Nobody consented to being inoculated with technology, okay?
In a sacred space. They don't want that. They want to have it all very well managed. And so the interfaith networks do that. And I've seen that in my own community in Philadelphia. I didn't understand it at the time, but I saw that the Gates Foundation had been funding interfaith organizations for a very
Bingo. Any of you Rastas who question what I'm saying and what she's saying right now? Bill Gates funded an interfaith community, okay? The interfaith communities are to get you to give up your root and truth of your faith, to denounce the things that you know to be true so that we can all get along. We all have already gotten along without their dragon system, because if their agendas weren't in play, Muslims and Christians and Rastas and all different kinds of religions would be getting along just fine. But they instigate these wars. They fund rebellions against nations. They create coups and revolutions that cause chaos, okay? When we could have a natural form of orderly chaos, which means I am who I am and you are, but we still buy, sell, and trade with each other and have friendship. Okay, but we still hold to our faith, okay? Like if you think Allah is the one true God, then what am I going to say to you unless God wants to do a miracle through me to prove to you that it's not the case, okay? I can't change you, and I don't want you to be changed. I want you to be able to practice your religion freely without a bunch of pressure from these interfaith communities, okay?
State in Pennsylvania, it was called power, which is interesting because so much of this does have to do with energy and frequency and power. And so this interfaith alliance, Christians, people of the Jewish faith, Muslims, they were all working together on certain key issues, but only with a very, very narrow focus. And they were meant to be kept busy on those things, like a fight for 15 wage or funding for public education, but very, very narrow, and they would not ever look expansively. And I think that was very much on purpose. And I think ultimately, it's order from chaos, that their plan will be to create chaos. Whether it's actually real chaos or not, it's hard to tell in this world of CGI and propaganda, but create chaos for a certain amount of time, dispossess people, and then bring them together under this cybernetic smart city, a digital citizen, universal basic income, wearable technology, teach the artificial intelligence, and pursue your spiritual practice, but under the watch of these digital systems.